In this video, I'm going to show you how to reduce your Quasar app's bundle size by 50 to 70% by using a CLI tool called Fantasticon to create a custom icon library for your project, which contains only the icons you need for your project. Make sure you subscribe and click the bell if you don't want to miss any of the videos in this series, and if you missed any of the previous videos, then you can find the link to the whole playlist in the description. So I decided to build the app that I'm working on, Fudget 2, for production and see how big the bundle size is so far. And if I just jump to Finder, we can see the SPA that it's generated here. And I was shocked to see that the bundle size is 2.4 megabytes. And 1 megabyte of this is coming from the font files from the icon libraries that I'm using in the app. Font Awesome, Line Awesome, and Material Icons. And 140 kilobytes are coming from the associated CSS from those icon libraries, which is in this vendor CSS file. So I decided to see if I could create a custom icon library which only contains the icons that I'm actually using in the app to see if I can reduce this bundle size. So I'm just going to switch to my latest branch, this icon font branch, and I'm going to build this for production with Quasar build. That's finished building, and if we now jump back to the dist folder, we can see it's reduced it to 1.2 megabytes, which is an astounding reduction of 50%. So in this project, we're going to create a Quasar 2 and Vue 3 project, and we're going to add one icon from each of the available icon libraries that come with Quasar. So Ionicons, Font Awesome, Eva Icons, Themify, Line Awesome, and Material Icons. Then we're going to build this app for production and see what the bundle size is, and we're going to be quite shocked to see how big it is. So then we're going to use a CLI tool called Fantasticon to create a custom icon library which only contains the 6 icons from each of the libraries that we're using, and we're going to see our bundle size reduced by a staggering 70%. Let's get started by creating a new Quasar 2 and Vue 3 project. So I'm going to jump to quasar.dev, and at the time I'm recording this, Quasar 2 is still in beta, so I'm going to click on this looking for Quasar v2 with Vue 3 button. And we're going to go to Quasar CLI and installation. And if you don't have the Quasar CLI installed, you can install it with this command. And of course, you also need Node installed as well, which you can get to at nodejs.org. Or you can install it with something like NPM if you prefer. And we should then be able to create a new Quasar 2 project by running this command, Quasar create. And since Quasar 2 is still in beta, we need to add -- branch next. So I'm going to jump to VS Code, which is the editor I'm going to be using, and I'm going to jump to the folder where I keep my projects, and I'm going to run Quasar create, and I'm going to call this project Quasar-icon-library. We need to add branch next and hit enter. And I'm going to leave the project name. I'm going to change the product name to Quasar Icon Library. I'll leave the description and I'll put my name for the author. And I'm going to use Sass with SCSS syntax. I'm going to disable ESLint with the spacebar, although you might want to consider using that in your own projects, and hit enter. And I'm going to use NPM to install the dependencies. Okay, it's finished creating the project, and we can launch it by running Quasar dev. And I can see the folder it's created, Quasar icon library. I'm going to drag that into VS Code and open up the terminal and run Quasar dev. And we can now see the app running in the browser. And I'm just going to get rid of some stuff that we don't need. So I'm going to jump to source, layouts, main layout.view. And I'm going to remove the draw, so this QDraw component. I'm going to get rid of that, and I'll remove this essential link import and this links list const. I'll remove this components object, and I'll just remove everything in the setup function, and I'll remove this ref that we're importing, and I'll also remove this button for toggling the draw in the header, this QButton component, and save that. And I'll also delete the essential links component in this components folder. Get rid of that. Okay, let's get started. Let's install each of the available icon libraries and add one icon from each library to this home page. So I'm going to jump to quasar.conf.js in the root of our project. I'm just going to search for icon. We can see the available icon libraries here in this extras array. So I'm going to uncomment Ionicons. I'm not going to bother with MDI because I think that's basically just an old version of material icons. I'll uncomment Font Awesome and Eva Icons, Themify and Line Awesome, and I'll save that. Okay, let's add an icon from each of these libraries to our page here. So I'm going to jump to the page, which is in source pages index.view. I'm going to remove these flex classes on the QPage component and remove this image and save that. And I'm going to jump back to the Quasar site and jump to options and helpers and Quasar icon sets. And we can see links here to all of the different icon sets. So I'm going to open a bunch of these in new tabs. So we'll open up material icons, Font Awesome, Ionicons, Eva icons, Themify icons, and Line Awesome. So let's jump to the material icons page. And we'll just grab the first icon, this search icon. And for this, we just need to use the class search. So I'm going to jump back to our project and we'll add a Q icon component to the page, Q icon. And we'll set the name to search and save that. And we can see that icon, but it's quite small. So let's add a size prop and set that to XL, extra large. I'm going to add a bit of padding around each icon. So we'll use one of Quasar's margin classes. So I'll add Q-MA for margin all -LG for large. Save that. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's jump to the Font Awesome page. And by the way, I'm going to leave all these tabs open because we're going to need them later on. And again, we'll just grab this first icon here. So I'll click on that and I'll click on this markup example to copy that. Paste it on the page and we'll duplicate our Q icon component and copy these classes and paste them into the name prop on this Q icon. Delete the I tag, save that. And we can now see this Font Awesome icon. So let's jump to Ionicons. And I think Quasar currently only supports Ionicons version 4 and this is version 5. But if we scroll down to the bottom and click on this V4 link, then we can see the V4 icons. So again, I'm just going to use the first icon. So I'll click on this icon and copy the example markup, paste it on our page, duplicate this Q icon and copy this name value, paste it into this name value in our Q icon and delete the Ion icon component and reload the page. And this looks pretty messed up. I think that's because for Ionicons, we need to add the prefix ion dash to this name prop. So I'll save that. And we can now see the Ionicon icon. So let's jump to Eva icons. And again, just click on the first icon. And we need to use the name activity outline. But again, I think we need to add the prefix Eva. So let's just duplicate this Q icon and copy this class here, paste it into the name prop. And just add the prefix Eva and save that. And we can see that on the page. So let's jump to Themify icons. Click on the first icon. And I think we can just use this class here. So I'll copy that, duplicate this Q icon and paste in the class. Save that. And we can see that icon. Finally, let's jump to Line Awesome. And again, click on the first icon. Copy this example, paste that at the bottom, duplicate a Q icon component, copy these classes and paste them into this name prop and delete the I tag, save that. And so we now have one icon from each of these icon libraries. Okay, let's build this mother for production and check the bundle size. So I'm going to jump to the terminal in VS Code, kill the dev process and run Quasar build. Okay, that's finished building. So I'm going to jump to the project folder and the dist folder and we can see the SPA that it's generated here, and we can see it's 2 megabytes. And if we jump into this fonts folder, then I think these fonts here, which start with KFO, are the Roboto font, but all of the other font files are coming from our icon libraries. So I'm just going to select all these and see how big they are. So we've got 1.3 megabytes coming from these font files from our icon libraries. And if we jump into the CSS folder and open up this vendor file, then I think all the CSS for our icon libraries will be at the top of this file, and the Quasar styles will be at the bottom. So I'm just going to search for Quasar. So the Quasar styles start here, but everything else is coming from our icon libraries. So I'm just going to select all this code. And so we can see down here we have over 200 kilobytes just coming from the CSS for these icon libraries. So that's 1.5 megabytes of data that our user needs to download just so we can display these 6 little icons. And that's just not acceptable. So let's create our own icon library with just these 6 icons in it, uninstall all of the icon libraries from Quasar, and reduce our bundle size by a whopping 70%. So we're going to create our icon library using this tool, Fantasticon. And this tool will create our icon library based on a bunch of SVG files. So first we need to grab an SVG for each of our icons and place these all in a folder. So I'm going to create a new folder in our source directory called svg-icons, and we'll place all of our SVG files in here. So I'm going to jump to the material site, and we still have our search icon activated here, and we can just click on this SVG link to download the SVG. So I'm going to download that and drag it into this SVG icons folder, and I'm just going to rename this, remove this 24dp bit from the end, and just so we know where this icon came from, I'm going to add a prefix of mat for material. Let's jump to the Fantasticon page. We can click on this little download button here to download the SVG. And again, I'm going to drag that into this SVG icons folder. I'm going to rename it and give it a prefix of FA for Fantasticon. Let's jump to the Ionicons page. We can see this little SVG button here for downloading the SVG. And for some reason, these download links are not working at the moment. That's failed. So instead, I'm going to download the designer pack by clicking this button at the top here and open up the zip. And it's opened that over here. So we'll jump in there. We want to scroll down to the material design style icons, which start with MD in the file name. And let's just check which icon we used. I'll jump to index.view, and it was this add circle outline. So let's see if we can find that. And there it is there. We can see the SVG. So I'm going to drag this into our SVG icons folder, and I'll rename that. And we'll give this a prefix of ion dash, so we know where it came from. Let's jump to the Eva icons page. Click on this SVG link to download the SVG. Drag it into our folder, and we'll give this a prefix of Eva. Jump to the Themify page, and I don't think we can download the SVGs from this page, so we'll download this icon font pack and open up this zip and jump to the SVG folder. And what's the icon we used? I'll jump to index.view, and it's this arrow up icon, and I can see that there, arrow up. So I'll drag that into the SVG icon folder and rename it and give it a prefix of TI dash. And finally, we want to grab the line awesome SVG. And again, I don't think we can download the SVG from here. So we'll have to download the pack instead by clicking on this download zip button. And we want the accessible icon SVG. So let's open up that, jump to SVG, and drag this accessible icon SVG to our folder. And again, we'll give this a prefix of LA for line awesome. And we now have SVGs for each of our icons. Okay, let's create an icon library based on these SVGs using Fantasticon. So I'm going to Google Fantasticon and I'm going to jump to the GitHub page and scroll down. So this is a global tool, so we can install it with this command. So I'm going to jump back to VS Code. I'm going to leave our app running in this terminal and open up a new terminal. And let's paste in this command and install Fantasticon. Okay, that's installed and it gives us a basic command here. So we just need to specify the input directory where our SVGs are, and then specify an output folder where it'll place our font files and our CSS file. So we need an output folder first, and I'm going to place this in our public folder. So I'm going to create a new folder called icon-font, and we'll use this as our output folder. So I'm just going to run Fantasticon, and then we need to specify our input folder, which is source/svg-icons. And then we need to add -o and specify our output folder, which is going to be public/icon-font. And by the way, when you run this, you might see an error such as this: fatal error, WASM code commit allocation failed, process out of memory. And you can fix this by updating your version of Node. And it's definitely working with Node version 16.0.3. So I'm going to run this command. And it says generating font kit, 6 SVGs found in our input folder. And it's generated 3 different font files: EOT, WAF2, and WAF. And we don't actually need the EOT file, so we will get rid of that later on. And it's also generated a CSS file and 3 other files which we probably don't need. So again, we'll disable the generation of these 3 files later on. But I'm just going to jump to this folder that it's populated with these files. And if we jump to icons.css, then we can see all of the classes that we need to use for our icons. And the classes that it's generated are based on the file name prepended with icon dash. But before we can use this icon library, we need to use this CSS file in our project. So I'm going to jump to the HTML file, index.template.html, in the source folder. And at the bottom of our head, I'll add a link element, make sure the rel attribute is set to style sheet, and we'll just add the path to this icon CSS file. And everything in this public folder is available at the root. So we can just set this path to icon-font/icons.css. So icon-font/icons.css. So I'll save that. And now let's add these icons from our new icon library to our homepage. Okay, let's add these new icons to our page. I'm going to close this HTML file and this file here, jump to index.view, and after our current QIcon components, I'm going to add a div, and then I'm going to copy all of these QIcons and paste them into this div. And now we just need to update the class names. So for this search icon, if we jump to icons.css, we can see our search icon here. So we need to use this class here, icon-mat-search_black. So I'll copy this and paste that here. And we'll do the same for our FontAwesome icon, which is this one here. So I'll copy this class. Obviously, we don't want to copy the before pseudo selector part, just everything before the colon. So I'll copy that, paste that in here. And now we need our Ionicon icon, and that's here. So I'll copy the class, paste that in here. And we need the Eva icon, which is here. So I'll copy that class and paste that in this Q icon. And then we need the Themify icon, and the class is here. So we'll copy that, paste that in there. And finally, we need the Line Awesome icon, which is here. So I'll copy the class and paste it in here and save that. And we can see two of our icons just fine, but the rest of them look way too small. So let's fix this with one of Fantasticon's command line options, and let's also stop Fantasticon from generating files that we don't need, such as the EOT file, HTML, JSON, and TS files. Okay, let's fix these tiny icons. So I'm going to jump back to Fantasticon and look at the command line options, and we can use this normalize option to normalize icons by scaling them to the height of the tallest icon. So let's run our command again in the terminal. So Fantasticon, then our input and output paths, and let's add -- normalize and run that again. It's generated our files. So let's see how they're looking. So this has fixed the sizes. They all look exactly the same as our original icons. However, there's an issue with our Eva icon. It's got this black square in the background. However, I found a way to fix this by changing the code in the SVG file. So I'm going to jump to source, SVG icons, and I'm going to open up our Eva icon here. And I found that we can fix this by removing these G tags. So I'm going to select from the opening of this first G tag up to just before this path tag and delete that. And I'll also delete these closing G tags and save that. And let's run our, and by the way, I didn't find any article or anything that told me to do that. I just figured it out by messing around, essentially. So now if we run our command again and reload the app, our icons now all look perfect. Okay, so let's stop Fantasticon from generating the files that we don't need. So we don't need the EOT font file. We only really need the WAF and WAF2 these days, and we don't need the HTML, JSON, or TS files. Although you may find uses for these in your particular project, but I'll show you how to stop Fantasticon from generating these. So first we can use this T option to specify the font formats to generate. So let's jump back to our terminal and we'll add this option to our command. So -T, and we're just going to need WAF and WAF2. And we can use this G option or asset types option to specify the other assets to generate. And I'm only going to need the CSS file. So I'm just going to add -G and CSS. And before we run this, let's just delete everything in our output folder because it won't overwrite it by default. So in public icon font, I'll select all the files and delete those. Let's run this command again. And this time, if we look at our output folder, we only have the assets we need: the WAF file, the WAF2 file, and the icons.css file. Let's just make sure they're still looking okay. Yeah, the icons still look great. This command is not easy to remember, so let's create an NPM script so that we don't need to remember it. So I'm going to copy this command that we just fired, and I'm going to jump to the package.json file in the root of our project. I'll remove this test script in the scripts object, and we'll create a script called icon-font and set the value to this command. And now we don't need to remember all of these options, and we should be able to just run npm run icon-font. And before we run that, I'm just going to delete the contents of the output folder. So I'll delete the WAF files and the CSS file. Let's run this command and make sure it's working. Yeah, it looks like it worked, and it successfully generated our files again. Let's say at some point we have a ton of different icons in our app from various different icon libraries. We might not want all of those SVG files in a single folder like this. We might want to split them up into folders, for example, a folder for each icon library, or maybe a folder for each type of icon, say social icons and navigation icons, etc. And with Fantasticon, we can do this. We can put all of our SVGs in different folders, and it will actually use the name of the folder as a prefix in our class name. So I'm going to create a folder in this SVG icons folder for each of our different icon libraries. So I'm going to create a folder called Eva for all of our Eva icons, and then a folder for Font Awesome, FA, and a folder for Ionicons, a folder for Line Awesome with the name LA, a folder for Material Icons with the name MAT, and a folder for Themify Icons with the name TI. And then I'm going to move these icons into their respective folders. So I'll move the Eva icon in here, and the FA icon in the FA folder, and the same for the Ionicon and the Line Awesome icon, the Material icon, and the Themify icon. And now that we've put these SVGs into folders, we no longer need to prefix these SVGs with the name of the icon library, because Fantasticon will just use the folder name as the prefix. So I'm going to rename each of these icons and just remove those prefixes which we added. So I'll remove FA dash from the Font Awesome icon, and remove Ion dash from the Ionicon, and the same for all the others as well. And now if we rerun our command, all of our class names should be the same. So let's rerun the icon font script and reload the app. And yeah, it's all still working. And we're using the same class names for our icons, but now they're nicely organized into folders. It would be really handy if we could automatically regenerate our icon library every time a new SVG is added to this SVG icons folder, or every time a file is renamed or deleted. And we could do that using the watch package. So I'm just going to Google NPM watch, and we want to jump to this one that's just called watch, not the one that's called npm-watch. This does a similar thing, but I just couldn't get it to work. So we're going to use this watch package. So it tells us how to install watch locally, but I'm going to install it globally. So I'm going to run npm install watch-g, and that's now installed. And so we can get this to watch a particular folder and then run a command for us every time the contents of that folder change. So we can just run watch, and then in quotes, single quotes or double quotes, we can enter the command that we want it to run. And we want it to run npm run icon font, the NPM script that we added. And then we just need to specify the folder we want it to watch. And we want it to watch source/svg-icons. So if we run this now, you can see it's already run our icon font script. And if anything changes in our SVG folder, it should rerun the command again. So I'm just going to clear the terminal here, and let's download a new material icon. So let's say this settings icon. I'm going to download the SVG and drag it into SVG icons MAT, our material icons folder. So we'll drag that in there. And you can see this watch package detected the change and reran our icon font script. And if we rename this file, I'll rename it to just settings. Then again, it's rerun our script. And if we go to public icon font and icons.css, we can see it has regenerated our CSS files and our font files as well. So we can now just add this new icon to our page without having to constantly rerun our generate command. So the name is going to be icon-mat-settings. Save that. And we can now see that icon on the page. Let's also set up an NPM script to run this watch command so that we don't need to memorize it. So I'm going to copy this command and again jump to package.json. We'll add a new script here. I'll call it icon-font::watch. and we'll paste in that command and save that. Let's see if this is working. So if we just run npm run icon font :watch, and yeah, it seems to be working. So let's just rename one of our SVGs. So I'll rename this search_black to just search. And yeah, it's rerun the command. And we can now no longer see the search icon because the class will have changed. So on index.view, I'm just going to change the class and remove this _black. Save that. And there we go. One of the beautiful advantages to using a custom icon library like this is that we're not just limited to the icon libraries that come with Quasar. We can use any icons that we want. So for example, let's say you want to use an icon from iconfinder.com, which is a site with millions of different icons. Let's say we want a phone icon. I'll search for phone, choose the free option, and find something that looks pretty decent. And this one looks pretty good. So I'll click on download SVG, and I'll create a new folder in our SVG folder for icon finder. I'll call that IF. Drag the icon in, and then I'm just going to rename it to phone. And we should then be able to use this in our app. So we'll duplicate this Q icon on index.view, change the class to icon-if-phone, and boom, there we go. And we can even create our own icons from scratch and add those to the library. So let's say you have a very particular need for a very particular icon and you just can't find it anywhere in any of the icon libraries or on sites like Icon Finder. Then you can use an app such as Figma or Sketch to create the icon yourself, which is what I've done here. So let's add this beautiful icon to our icon library. So I'm going to export this as an SVG. So I'm going to jump to projects, Quasar icon library, and source and SVG icons. And I'll create a new folder called custom for icons that I've created myself and save that. And this should now be added to our icon library and we should be able to use it. So I'm just going to duplicate one of these Q icons and set the class and save that. And we can now see this beautiful icon on our page. Let's remove these big ass icon libraries from our app, rebuild it for production, and see how much we reduced our bundle size by. So first of all, I'm going to remove all of the original icons from the page. Just delete those and save that. And I'm going to jump to the config file, quasar.conf.js, and comment out Ionicons, Font Awesome, Eva Icons, Themify, Line Awesome, and Material Icons, and save that. And everything's still looking okay. Before we build this app for production and see how much space we saved, there's one caveat that you need to know, which is that some Quasar components use material icons out of the box. So let's see what happens if we add a QSelect to our page. So I'm going to jump to the Quasar site, View Components, Form Components, and Select. And I'll scroll down a bit. Let's just copy this filled select, which is this second one here. So I'll copy that and add it to the page after this div. And I'll also jump to the script section, copy all of this script section, paste over our script section. I'll split the attributes on this QSelect. And I'll also give this a fixed width. I'll just add a style attribute with the width set to 200 pixels. And I'll also add some margin, so Q-MA for margin all directions, -XL, and we'll save that and see how it's looking. And you can see this is not looking very good because we can't see the little drop down icon, which is usually displayed here. Instead, we just see the name of the icon. And that's because this icon is from the Material Icons library, and we just uninstalled that library. But don't worry, because we can fix this, because if we jump to the select page and up to the API section, and then content, and scroll down. We have this drop down icon prop, which we can use to specify our own icon. So what we can do now is grab the arrow drop down icon from the material icons library, add it to our library, and then use this drop down icon prop to specify this drop down icon. So I'm going to jump back to the material icons page and search for arrow underscore drop underscore down. And we can see the icon there. So let's click on that and download the SVG. And we'll add it to SVG icons MAT. Drop that in there. And our icon library should be auto regenerated because we're watching it. We can now jump to this Q select and add this drop down icon prop and set it to our icon class, which should be icon-mat-arrow underscore drop underscore down. And actually I need to rename this file. So I'll rename it to just arrow underscore drop underscore down. And let's jump back to our app, reload, and our beautiful drop down arrow is now back in its place. Now, I haven't tested all of the Quasar components, but the select component is the only component which gave me this problem in Fudgit 2. But you'll just have to do your own research and your own experiments and make sure any Quasar components that you want to use in your app will give us an option such as this for components which do use material icons. Okay, let's build this sucker for production and see how much space we saved. So I'm going to jump back to our first terminal, close the dev process and run Quasar build. Okay, that's finished. So let's see if this was all worth it. So I'm going to jump back to Finder and we can see our bundle is now only 647 kilobytes, down from 2 megabytes. So 647 divided by 2000. That's a reduction of almost 70%. Pretty mother flipping good. And you can grab the source code for this app at dannys.link/Quasar icon library code, and you can find the link in the description. Please hover over my face and click subscribe. Every subscription helps me to create more content for this channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.